Hello, if you are new here, I'm Halona Black, and I'm an editorial and authority strategist, and I help experts turn their ideas into writing that builds visibility, trust, and revenue. And today, we're talking about newsletters. Talking about newsletters because this is one of the simplest ways to build authority that I know of. And it's also one of the most ignored. When people are building a newsletter, I notice a lot of people, they don't put a lot of effort and energy into it. They kind of start off gung-ho, excited. Then by around week 2, 3, 4, they're like, well, I don't really have anything to talk about. I don't have anything to report to my email audience. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. So a lot of people assume that newsletters don't matter anymore, um, for a lot of reasons. Because of the advent of AI, you may be getting some garbage newsletters that people just sort of created using AI, and it's not useful to you. You may think that using other platforms like Instagram or whatever else it is you may be using um, may take the place of a basic email newsletter. But here's the thing. Email really is still has one of the highest returns in business. On average, for every dollar spent on email marketing, businesses make about $36 back. And as I have continued to build my business over the years, I have used email marketing, email newsletters to be able to stay in contact with my own people, and continue to nurture my audience via email. One, because I enjoy writing, but two, because it works. Oh, I've always wanted to have a business where I can just send an email and be able to make money. You know what I mean? But in order to get that, that takes time to be able to create. And so, as a person who supports other experts in creating their authority business, I like to be able to help people to do that, to be able to do that, to be able to send out an email and be able to make money just because you sent an email. It is not just because you sent the one email, it's because you built a relationship with the people who are on your list long enough for that to be able to happen. Does that make sense? And so there's over 4 billion, billion with a B, 4 billion email users, and most professionals check their inbox every day, sometimes multiple times a day. I know that I do. So this isn't about a trend, but it is about figuring out how to get access to where your people are. And when you send a newsletter, you're not fighting an algorithm, like whether Facebook, like for example, I've used Facebook for years as a way to be able to connect to people. However, one day I woke up and didn't have, not even that I woke up, I was in the middle of using Facebook and something happened, walked away, came back, and my whole Facebook was gone. My whole Facebook profile was shut down. And that was back in November of 2025. And as of today, April 2026, I do not have access to my Facebook. So algorithm can't work for you. The algorithm can't work for you if you don't have a profile and can't get access to the platform at all. Um, and there are other spaces for people to be able to go on social media. And it's not that you can't use those spaces. However, you don't own those spaces. I think we can remember back when the Orange Man was just coming into office for the second time. And there was this whole debacle with TikTok. Um, and people were losing their mind because they thought that whatever community they had created on TikTok, they would not be able to have access to them anymore, or they would have to rebuild it someplace else. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why these people, particularly those who have really large, I mean, like hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of followers, like they only built a following on TikTok only and really didn't use any of the other, you have to be able to build something that belongs to you. And so when social media algorithms start to act a fool, or, when stuff beyond your control happens with social media platforms that don't belong to you, you have to have a space where you can actually still communicate with the people that you have worked so hard to gather, people who are interested in what it is that you have to say, what it is that your products and your services that you are offering. Um, you want to be able to have access to them. So and that's important. You want to be able to have that available to you when you want. And so when you send a letter or a newsletter, an email newsletter, you're not fighting the algorithm. You're just going directly to someone who already said yes to hearing from you. And that makes a difference. That makes a difference. That's a very different type of a relationship than just, randoms that you can possibly pick up on social media. You can use social media to be able to reroute people to your email newsletter, but to only depend on social media alone, I think is a slippery slope. So now, who actually benefits from having a newsletter? I really think that this works best for people who sell thinking. If you're a consultant, a lawyer, a coach, a therapist, a founder of a company, um, anyone whose work depends on building trust with other people. If someone reads your ideas every week, if someone reads your ideas every week, um, for a few months, they start to understand how it is that you think, right? And when they're ready to hire someone, they're not starting from scratch with you. They're already feel familiar with your work because they've been looking at it every week. They keep hearing from you every week. They keep getting updates from you every week. And that really shortens the sales cycle without you having to constantly promote yourself from scratch. Um, and so you're sort of building this rhythm with people of hearing from you. And it's not always to sell something either. You of course you get to decide how often they get to hear from you. In general, I would say you can start off with once a week, but you get to decide the cadence and the rhythm of how often they hear from you and what it is that you are offering. Some people they like to do more education and then soft sales. And then other people, they might be selling in every email, excuse me, in every email newsletter. Um, but they have times during the year when they're doing more hard selling than others. That, and that totally depends on the type of business that you have, right? But where most people get stuck is actually quite simple. They don't know what to say, so they don't have to say anything. Or they treat their newsletter like an update instead of sharing how their thinking actually works. Or they start, they'll start, 1 month, disappear for a few weeks, and then try to come back when they feel more inspired. And that sort of inconsistency is what keeps the whole process of the email newsletter from actually working in your favor. So, as far as tools go, don't overthink this part. People lose a lot of time thinking about tools. I use Kit for this part of my business. For teaching authority or teaching people how to create their own authority online, I use Kit. Kit was specifically created with people who are online creators in mind, people who are building online businesses in mind. And so I like using Kit, KIT.com. I use Kit when I want to build and manage an email list that's tied to offers and the clients that I serve in my authority building business. I also use Substack. I am also a writer. I'm a thinker, I'm a strategist. I like to write about travel, well-being. I write about how food supports us in our own development, right? Particularly as a woman who is approaching 50, and how, your life perspective starts to change, and all of those things. So that's more of my personal writer space, and I am building a following around that. Why? Because at some point I will have books and other things related to that topic. And so I like Substack. That works. Substack works as a space for me, as I choose to use it, as a space for, it works as a website, as well as a place to be able to collect emails so that I can build a relationship with people who enjoy my thinking in that area on Substack. Both of them work for what it is that I'm doing. However, there are many other tools. I'm not going to go into them. You can go ahead. I'm just going to share those are the two that I know personally, and I love them both for the two different reasons that I explained. But the tool matters less than knowing what it is that you're doing with it. So if you're thinking, okay, I get it, I should probably have a newsletter, then the next question is, what do you actually write? Which is a really great question. What do you actually write? That's what I'm going to break down for you in the next video. That'll be tomorrow's video. So yeah, I really love having an email newsletter business, or a business that depends on having an email newsletter. I always talk about here online about how it is that I'm more of a writer than I am a speaker. Of course, I'm using YouTube as a space to be able to practice public speaking and getting better at public speaking. But I'm always a writer first. I'm always going to be more comfortable with the writing piece than I am with speaking. And so I get to choose how it is, or the avenues that I get to be able to use to be able to make money. And so if you are, kind of like me, you like writing, writing could be your whole jam or your whole business, or it could be a part of the business. If you enjoy writing, or even if you want to be able to hire this process out to somebody else, because I do offer a ghost writing service for businesses who have the budget to be able to do that. But if you want help figuring out how a newsletter actually can fit into your business and what you would actually say each week, I do offer a 60-minute newsletter strategy intensive where we get to sit down and we map out your focus, we map out your angles and what you should be writing. So you're not staring at a blank page every time you sit down to write your newsletter. If that's useful for you, I went ahead and I added a link to that service below. I would love to really be able to sit down and talk with you. Again, it's an hour long. You will walk away with a clear map, a content calendar, if you will, to help you grow your business with newsletters. Let's let's get back to the basics of building a business. I know AI is there and there are ways to be able to use AI to actually support what it is that you're doing. But you wanted to be able to do it in a way that is unique to you, that serves you in a way that using AI is going to be able to serve you and the people that you are interested in staying connected with. So yeah, I offer that 1 hour newsletter strategy intensive. The link is in the description box. So yeah, that's all that I have for today. Tomorrow we'll talk about what do you actually write. So tomorrow's video is actually going to be really practical for you. All right, so I will see you tomorrow.